Welcome, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Welcome to the assembled members of the press. Today we're going to be talking about a film called Blackbird, which hinges on a terminally ill matriarch played by Susan Sarandon, who reunites three generations of her family at their country house for one final time. Roger Michell, you've been here many times at TIFF, and you join us today as the director of Blackbird, Susan Sarandon. I don't know if you even know this, but you're here at the festival a second time with A Dry White Season, which is playing at the Cinematheque, so people can go see that again. Sam Neill, you've been here many, many times. Daybreaker, Skin, Dean Spanley, in more films than I can mention right now. You play Paul in the film. Rainn Wilson, TIFF films include Juno, Super, Peep World, he plays Michael in the film, and Cheryl Clark is Blackbird's producer and president of production of the Age Collective. Welcome to Toronto, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I'm going to start with you because the genesis of how this script got to the screen is, I mean, maybe it happens every day, but it almost didn't happen. Someone handed you a script, and pick up the story from there if you would.
I was at a dinner party, and I was seated next to a writer who I didn't know, and we were sitting having a lovely dinner, and I said, "Oh, have you ever written a feature?" And he said, because he was writing in television, and he said, "Yes, I have one. It's a movie I wrote in Denmark, and I'd love for you to take a look at it." And I wasn't sure, to be honest, when you get handed a script at a dinner party. Mm-hmm. And I read it and fell in love with it and immediately sent it to Roger.
And what was it initially that grabbed you, and why did you even pick it up? Because I'm sure people are handing scripts to you all the time. Would you have a look at this thing that I've written? What was it about it that made you want to even crack the spine of the script?
I think when Christian pitched it, he was quite emotional about it. And I do love a good family drama. And I'd been looking, Roger and I worked on Morning Glory together, and I had been looking for a script for him for 10 years. And so when he pitched it, I thought, oh, this could be something for Roger, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And so I cracked it open and then couldn't put it down.
And Roger, when you received the script, so you're next in line here, when you received the script, for you, what was it about this? It feels to me different than some of your other films, and we'll talk about why in a few minutes, but what was it for you that drew you in?
Well, I was sent a sort of almost a literal translation from the Danish of the film that was made and indeed was shown here at TIFF.
Called Silent Heart.
Silent Heart, Still Heart. And I saw within it a kind of germ of an idea of something that I thought could be very powerful and strong. It's a film about a death. It is a film about euthanasia, but it's not a film which is an issue film. It doesn't really debate the issues around euthanasia. The event has been preordained. It's been discussed by this family. The family are all meeting for a final weekend at this very isolated country house by the sea. So in an odd way, it's like an Agatha Christie movie. You know, we know there's going to be a death. It's what surrounds the death, which is so fascinating. And it's brilliantly using the event of this woman's death to anatomize or explode, if you like, this very complicated family. And I suppose that's what I found interesting about it. A lot of the film is people sitting around talking. And I think that's probably what interests me most about making films or making plays, is people sitting around talking. Mm-hmm. And this film is the absolute apotheosis of that. And I think it's come out well.
The great Canadian filmmaker David Cronenberg says that the best part of cinema is just that, you know, interesting people saying interesting things.
Yeah, you can sit in a room with people you don't know, and you can sit next to them around a table, and you can eavesdrop on their reality. And this wonderful cast absolutely persuades you of the truth of really every moment of their performances. And I think that's a testament to them, but it gives the film its life and its humanity and its vitality, and it's fun. You know, it's quite a funny film. It's not a dreary, miserable film entirely. It gets pretty sad at the end, but it's got wonderful life and truth in it.
I saw it as a celebration of life. a celebration of looking back, of looking forward, what happens afterwards. And we'll get to sort of some of the nitty gritty here. I'm going to follow the script along the path that it made, because eventually it makes it to Susan, and you were finishing Ray Donovan, you were working, you didn't have a lot of time, and then the script was sent to you. And again, the same question. I mean, I'm told that 4 hours later you wrote back and said,
Well, everybody else was already on board, so I had that to vote for. I knew what the cast was and Roger's work, and they were all great people, some of whom I'd worked with before. I worked with Kate before, I worked with my
you've
dear
been married
husband
before.
and you know, people that I admired, and I thought it would be fun, and I thought, you know, it's interesting to ask yourself what your definition is of life, and when you draw the line, and what matters to you and what doesn't. Because we met someone, you know, when you start to actually look into this disease and the various steps.
It's ALS, by the way.
ALS, you know, there's different landmarks that you have to make decisions of how you're going forward and what you're doing. And we have someone in the United States called Adi Barkan, who's an activist who has been fighting for Medicare for all throughout his entire degeneration of his body, but he is so clear in his purpose and has a small child and is continuing on. But if, you know, what is your quality of life? What do you, I remember in The Hunger saying that it was, for me, about would you live forever if you were addicted? Mm-hmm. You know, what are the limits to how you define what your life is to be? And so it brings up those things. And of course, everything that we're talking about, family and family secrets, and, you know, how you see your parents, which is hardly ever who they really are, and how you see your children, which is hardly ever who they are, and, you know, and so there's a lot of revelations. But I just thought, yeah, I'll jump. You know, we'll give it a whirl. And we were in the most extraordinary, beautiful place in England that I'd never been working. I mean, I've worked in England before, but never in the countryside, and that was very special.
Is the house that we see, the outside of the house, is it the same as because this place is fantastic. I can see just sending photos of that around saying you get to spend 5 weeks here, and everyone would sign on. Yeah.
It was gorgeous. My dog was so sad to leave. Penny took some gorgeous pictures. We were really sad, and we were all neighbors. We kind of all, actually, some of us lived attached, right behind a pizza parlor, and just getting to know the English countryside and the pub life and, you know, cathedral life.
Yeah, we became a sort of weird family ourselves, and that knits into the fabric of the film in a strange way.
And how important is that? I mean, I sometimes wonder when you talk to actors and they say we've become a family, but how much of it do you think really translates to the screen, or is it just all on the page? I mean, if it's on the page,
I don't think you worry about if it translates onto the screen. I think one of the reasons I do it is that always exposes the best and the worst of people. This business, maybe only in the circus you also get the same chance, but it is a kind of, you know, you're so dependent on those people showing up and being there on and off camera, and that just makes you fall in love.
And Rain, let's talk about Michael a little bit. Michael, the character, is someone for me who I thought that I knew, and we give nothing away here, but there's a fire in his belly that gets displayed, and it's fascinating to watch. It is the complete opposite of all the assumptions that I made about him in the first number of scenes that I saw with him, and I loved it. I loved watching this guy change, show his true self, come through. Tell me a little bit about what you think about Michael. What does he mean to you?
Well, it's an incredible script in that there is this 8-person ensemble, and every character goes through a really exquisite journey. Not huge kind of Shakespearean turns, but very slight but profound kind of Chekhovian ones, where you think you know someone and then other aspects of them are revealed gradually. They make subtle shifts emotionally and with humor, and I really appreciated that about the film. You know, yes, death is at the center of the film, but really it's a movie about life, and it's a life of a family. You know, they're eccentric, they've got skeletons in the closet, they bump up against each other in various tense, difficult, and funny ways. And, you know, death is the mirror that really kind of illuminates what being alive is all about. So when faced with death, you know, life kind of springs forth. And that sounded incredibly profound just then.
It did.
I
But-
want it on a T-shirt, actually.
But so it was just a joy to take that journey and to get to play Michael, who does have a really kind of beautiful transformation and arc. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Shooting this, it was shot in order by and large, which is unusual for most films. For you, having spent 10 years on stage in New York as an actor, did it feel like this large ensemble play? Did it feel different than shooting a regular film because you're shooting in order? The sets are limited. It all takes place inside a house by and large. Did it feel different to you?
Yeah, it definitely felt like a more theatrical experience. Plus, not to mention, we had a week to rehearse before we started shooting. So we got to know each other, read through the script, ask all the questions. So all those questions that you have as an actor were pretty much answered. So when we showed up, we could just kind of get to work. But it was a play. You know, it's all in this house. It's all the same 8 people. There's no background actors or extras or visual effects or anything like that. So in the truest sense of the word, then it's all about the acting, you know, hopefully beautifully captured on camera.
Yeah, and you know, it's 8 characters, but every character has a different relationship, has their own relationship to every other. So it's actually 8 8s are 64 relationships. Right. And playing Rain's father-in-law, I mean, the relationships, the ones that are explored with the most depth in this are the mothers and daughters thing. And we as a father of daughters, I, you know, recognize all those kind of tensions and the glory, the wonderful, glorious things about mothers and daughters, and the worst things that happen between them as well. And also, as a father-in-law, this is the kind of dill, you know, that your daughters end up with, and you know he's marvelous, but also you think, oh my God, they ended up with this guy, you know. There's so much in this film that any of us, and we all are part of a family, recognize very intimately.
Your character, Michael, no, what's his name? Paul. Your character, Paul, is reserved in the film. You have come to grips, you play a doctor, you have come to grips with what's going to happen. There is a date set for the assisted suicide. There is a sense of calm about it. Susan, you have a speech where you talk about the reasons why you wanted to do this before you lose use of your arms and fed through a tube and that sort of thing. But you also talk about the calm that comes with knowing the last day, when the last day is going to be. And there are a number of scenes, Sam, as you're responding to whatever the people are saying around you, that are remarkable in their quietness. They are subtle, beautiful scenes. I'm thinking of a dinner scene, and again, I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but I think we know how the movie ends. And so there's a dinner scene where Lily is giving away pieces of her life to members of her family, and when they get down to the last piece and she gives something to you, I won't say what it is, there's a beautiful shot of your face and just the subtlest movement on your face that absolutely destroyed me. It is such a beautiful, true moment of someone who I felt was trying to be calm in a situation that maybe was tearing him up inside, but had to be strong for everyone around him.
Yes, I'm not sure how subtle it was because it cracked me up every time. But no, I would say the term is not so much calm, it's kind of contained heartbreak. That his heart is breaking all the way through the film, but it's necessary, most particularly for her, that a sense of order and normality is brought as much as possible to the most extraordinary of circumstances.
Well, and I saw it as, you know, the ultimate act of love at that point to make sure that everything was in place and that everyone was just going to go along with the wishes. And it's a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I think love is something that is explored on many different levels, not least of them Rainn Wilson shagging in a barn.
Oscar winner Kate Winslet. That's what I have in common with Leonardo DiCaprio. So,
Do we have questions from the audience? Yeah, go ahead. We'll start. Oh, yeah, we've got a microphone coming your way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have a question to Susan. Since the movie talks about, you know, celebrating life and death, how would you like to be remembered in the future?
Me?
Both of you.
Oh, I once heard, the greatest ambition is to be, after one's departure, a sweet sound on someone else's lips. And I think that's as much as I could hope for.
That sets the bar pretty high for you, Susan.
I tried. I gave it a shot.
I'll get to you in a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Andrew Marshall from AFP. This is mainly for Susan. In terms of, euthanasia is obviously a very controversial topic, politically, etc., illegal in many places. I was wondering what your position was on that starting out, and if it changed while you were researching and then taking part in this role.
It's legal in 9 states in the United States at the moment, or it's going to be 9. Maine is about to vote. I think Maine is the last one. I did a thing with Al Pacino about Kevorkian, so I researched it years ago and saw the actual tapes. At that time, when it was so illegal, you had to do a tape right before you push the button of the machine that allowed you to do it. And I think that everyone has the right to make a decision about that without your family members being charged with homicide or anyone. You should be able to be surrounded by those people. I think it's an individual choice, and it should be legal and controlled, and there are very, very strict perimeters around, talking to doctors. But the fact of the matter is that if you're wealthy, just like abortion, you'll always have access to things that are controversial. You know, if you're wealthy, your doctor will make sure, whether it's upping your morphine or whatever, that you're not suffering. It's not something that's new. So giving other people real access to that, and there's so many baby boomers now, this is becoming something that is discussed more in the United States, and there are now death doulas that assist you even if you're not doing something abruptly, but just try to make it possible for you to stay at home and for you to be comfortable. And I think that actually taking on this process of letting go of your body is something that takes a lot of thought, and the medical profession has been way, way behind. Hospice only came into being fairly recently, so it's not just ending your life, but being able to end your life with dignity and without pain. And I think anybody that has had a family member that has really suffered is very, very much interested and pro having that choice.
Sam, if you ever decide to take your own life, I would like to be there to help in that process.
You are so sweet.
However you'd like some help.
We have a
God
question.
bless you, Rainn Wilson.
My name is Mamen. I'm coming from La W Radio. I would like to ask you, Susan, how you prepare for a role like this that you have to say your family you are gonna die? How you prepare?
This is for me.
It could be.
How do you prepare my family for me dying?
No, what
I'm
is
kidding,
the
I'm kidding.
inspiration? What is the
I
inspiration?
mean, it was very torturous the first 2 weeks, just even dreaming about all of that. And but I think as a, when you get to a certain age, it seems like all the things you're offered, you're either dying or helping someone die. So I've thought about this a number of times, and I appreciate having to think about this because I think we should all live each day as if it could be the final day. And so that is a gift when you get something like this, that you have to really think about those things. But I think that is the thing that ties you to earth and is the most difficult, our children, for sure.
I'll get to you in a sec. Roger, this film takes on such big topics about the very essence of what it means to live or die. How do you avoid the sentimentality that could go along with that? How do you know how to balance this so that we are having moments of, we're having peaks and valleys. We're having moments where there's a laugh, which breaks the tension a little bit. But tell me a little bit about constructing that, if you could.
Well, I think with this sort of subject matter, you have to you guard against, as you say, too cheesy, too much fromage in the mixture, because it'll just be repulsive. By that I mean it'll repel people from what you're trying to do. I mean, they're very practical in the film. They made a series of practical decisions which they've thought through very carefully. Susan's character is quite a control freak, which is very characteristic of people who euthanize. They're quite often not depressive. They're actually extremely coherent and logical and controlling about exactly how they want to die. And I hope that we've reflected that. I mean, it's very hard to imagine a situation where, as Mark Twain once famously said, never put off till tomorrow what you can put off to the day after. And I think that if I was approaching the weekend when I was going to top myself, I would find an excuse. You know, there'd always be one more day. You know, why don't I wait till Monday? Then at least I can see this thing on TV that's on Sunday night. So that's what's so telling and wonderful about this story, is that Susan's character, even when offered the choice of postponement, is absolutely savagely decisive about what she's going to do. And I think that helps to leaven the sentimental kind of ingredient, if you like.
Can I say on that subject, regardless of what any of us think about it, I think one of the interesting things about this film, it neither advocates, it doesn't condone or condemn assisted suicide. It's completely neutral on that.
And Cheryl, how important was that to you as a producer of this film?
It actually was extremely important to me that we didn't necessarily get on a soapbox one way or the other. And I knew Roger well and knew he would approach it in the right way. And that was really important with the cast, with the director, you know, that we were all making the same movie and we all had the same intention. So it was very important.
We'll go right here.
Hi, my name is Daniel from Kino DK in Denmark. And being a Dane, I would like to know what is your relationship with the original movie and with the director, Bille August, for all of you?
I intentionally didn't watch the original movie. I'll probably watch it after this is opened, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But I didn't want to be constrained or to be in some way influenced by what I hear is a lovely film. But of course, I worked very extensively with the writer, the same writer, Christian Torp, on this script. So through that genealogy, I suppose I had a connection with the original film.
Did any of you watch the original?
I decided not to watch it as well, and I probably will watch it but I'm just very afraid that the guy who plays my part is going to be better than me.
He is.
Other questions from the press? Yep, go ahead. Oh, we've got a microphone here.
Hi there, Josh Freeman, CP24. I'm just curious if any of you came to this film with different ideas about assisted suicide or found any particular insights as you worked with the material in the film?
I learned how you do it, which is slightly more complicated than I thought in terms of the blame trail being very scrupulously observed by the people around the person who's dying. I mean, suicide is perfectly legal, isn't it? You can commit suicide without breaking any law. It's this very complicated area, which will be very complicated, I think, to legislate around, of helping someone else commit suicide. So I became aware of those issues. But I suppose I became, having read a lot about people who'd gone down this road, deeply compassionate about those who had really struggled to be permitted to kill themselves, those who were incapacitated to an extent where they could only do so with someone else's help. And of course, in England, many people go to Switzerland, to Dignitas, an organization which carries out these procedures legally. But if you are the spouse of such a person in England, and you, for example, drive them to Heathrow Airport, you can be arrested for aiding them in a criminal act. So it's quite complicated.
Let's talk about the way you shot, too. It's all natural light, from what I understand. So you had a specific set of hours that you could work.
Yeah, it's not all natural light,
No?
actually, but we decided to shoot, as you said, to shoot in this house, which is virtually entirely made out of glass. So that conditioned and absolutely controlled our schedule, so that we were shooting in the autumn, weren't we, this time of year, in fact. So we had increasingly less daylight. We have lots of night stuff, which is good, so we were able to start shooting our night scenes at a reasonable hour, 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. But it wasn't like a conventional movie set. We didn't have tons and tons of lights, and I don't like spending time on set watching people lighting. I like spending time watching people acting. So we managed to achieve that.
And Susan, when we talk about how quickly you responded to reading the script, when you choose things, is it instinctual? Is it how is it that you choose your parts?
Well, now that my kids are grown, that makes a big difference. A lot of it used to be around school schedule. But of course, who's involved? I have to be moved by the script. But whether the part's big or small doesn't really matter to me if there are scenes that matter. And by matter, I mean, have some bearing on the actual outcome of something. And I want to have fun. Sometimes the location is fabulous, like this one was. But I think they're just adventures. And, my kids would go, oh, another adventure. We have to pack our bags. And I would drag them with me sometimes, during the summers and other times. But now that my kids are cutting their own meat, I don't have to actually consider them as much, unless there's nudity or sexuality involved, and then that does give me pause.
And Rain, same question to you. How is it that you look for the next project? And what do you look for?
I always look for a challenge and a story that I'm interested in helping to tell, and that's pretty much it. And people that I'm
something
interested.
you can talk about forever in a junket.
Yes, and something that I can speak about for 8 hours straight, as I've
but
done
you
today.
only get asked the same 4 questions over and over again for 8 hours straight. So
You've been the best. Your questions are the best. You win the award.
Well, you've actually seen the movie. That made a big difference, I think, that you had some great questions.
And Sam, you have, when I look at how many movies you have coming out, you seem to always be working. Is that the case with you, or does it feel like that to you?
Yeah, I always think of myself as the laziest actor on the planet, and then people say, "Why do you never stop working?" But it doesn't sort of feel like that. I think in my case, it's just I'm looking forward to the day when I actually get a handle on how to act, and I'm just looking forward to getting it right.
I think you might be there. I think you might be there already.
It's very kind.
Spending more time at your winery, maybe.
Yeah, I'm very divided about that. I do like to be at home, and I have pets and pigs, and I like drinking wine. Yeah.
Is there, as we discussed, there isn't a position taken in this film. It is simply documenting an event and a family and all its kind of messy glory. Is there a message to be taken away from this, or is it a conversation sparker, or what do you all feel that you would like to have people say when they walk out of the theater?
I think really the only message of the film is life is precious. You know, love each other. That's what you want this and any other work of art to spark in someone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when Ray Wilson says, you know, that the simplest things, they turn out to be very profound, and then when he's trying to be profound, you think, that's really dumb. That was a good one.
I'm going to help you die before the end of this junket. So let's figure out how you want to do that. I think accidentally falling off of the CN Tower would be a great way to go.
Yeah, if he invites you to do the edge walk, it's called, do not do the edge walk. Susan, for you, is there something to take away? I mean, this was a film after my wife and I watched it. We talked about it a great deal afterwards. And there were moments that are profoundly sad in this moment, I think, in this movie, but they're for me the smaller moments. So the larger moments, I just thought, pushed me towards thinking about the courage that it takes to make this decision and understanding what your life means to you and to the members of your family. And it's you know, primal. We're all going to have to make decisions like this at some point. But the film, I thought was a great conversation starter in that way.
Well, you hope that every film, my feeling always is that The Nutty Professor was one of the most political films there is, because you identify with that guy as a hero and want the gal to be with the fat guy. You know, every film tells you something. We only talk about ones which challenge the status quo, but every film does get you, if you do have a conversation, then I think you've been so successful. I personally never would have been able to leave my family at that moment. I would have definitely put it off because it was still so tumultuous, and I couldn't have done it. But you know, I understand somebody that would, but I personally, not in a million years. Even knowing what's in store later for her, it would have been very difficult for me to leave my kids behind at that point. So, I mean, that is a conversation you can have. Sometimes, you know, we figure out our bottom line by watching TV. I mean, other places than The Bachelorette, we can talk about things of what you would do and wouldn't do and who you'd like and all of that. So I think, yeah, I think every film that you can dine out on and have a heated discussion or cry or whatever is a story that's worth making.
Roger, you were going to say something?
Yes, I was just going to say that although the film isn't an issue film or a campaigning film, I think it's unavoidable that the film doesn't condone, but it almost celebrates, certainly normalizes or makes acceptable what this woman and her family end up deciding to do. So in that sense, I suppose it is advocating a change in the law.
Yeah, go ahead.
Susan, since you know the Toronto Film Festival is kind of the platform where all the Academy Awards, nominees are, and this is the kind of movie that we might see there. What did it mean for you to win the Oscar, and what would it mean to get another one?
See, this is what we're all saying. That, Susan's going to get nominated for everything, and no one's going to remember any of us.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, film now has become so corporate. To get an Oscar, I mean, when I got nominated 5 times and won once, and you didn't have to spend. I mean, the studio didn't even know how I got the first nomination. When I said, "What am I nominated for?" They said, "We don't even know how that happened." That would never happen now. You have to have so much behind you, so much money, so you have to start like 6 months of a campaign to get a nomination now. So things have really changed, and I'm happy to be part of that club of people who have been recognized by my peers, and in that sense it means a lot. But also in part of my brain, I know that there's so many performances in little films that nobody really, maybe they see them or they see them on some other format or whatever, but they don't have the means to give all of the screenings, to give all the brunches, to give all the opinion maker things. I mean, you have to work your ass off now to be able to get a film to compete with some of these films that are the Harvey Weinsteins of the world are pushing. I mean, that's just a fact. And so part of my brain, of course I would love it. And, I got nominated a lot in a short period of time, and I remember Larry Fishburne behind me saying, "If you don't get it this time, we're burning the place down." and I thought, oh, they're just so glad to finally get rid of me. And so I was very happy because it was also a project that I had found, that I'd forced him to make, that now his sister Helen was a friend. I mean, like, of all the films that I was nominated for, that was the one it felt like it was for the team, to get 5 nominations for the film and script and everything. So, I mean, I certainly would love the idea of getting a nomination or the film getting recognized, but also in part of my brain I realize, this is just the way it is. So you have to understand that there's so many people that deserve to be recognized that aren't recognized, like Sam.
And Rain.
And Rain. Does that answer your question? I'm kidding. But so yes, it would mean a lot, but also I take it with a grain of salt because I know that it's up against whatever Meryl Streep is doing this year, or Kate Blanchett, or, all the big heavy hitters. There's so many talented female actors out there with such good parts and everything. I think we're all in a club where we respect each other and cheer each other on and support each other, whether we get nominated or not.
And did it change anything at all?
No, except that now they don't say Academy Award loser.
4-time Academy Award loser, Susan Sarandon.
One-time winner.
One final question, and I'll direct this to you two on the ends here, because what you were talking about is the smaller character-driven films, smaller dramas, can sometimes get bowled over. I think we've been seeing it in theaters. Does it matter to you? A film like this will play, we're at the film festival, it'll play in front of thousands of people while it's here, but it could also stream. It's a perfect movie, I think, to stream, and you can reach a huge audience there. As filmmakers, does it matter to you the delivery mechanism for your film?
I'm one of those people who's just hanging on to film and seeing movies in a theater with an audience. I love the experience. I love everything about it. That's all I ever wanted to do as a kid, is to make movies and have that experience. So while this is a really good film for streaming, and I do too stream movies at home, I still prefer seeing movies in a theater with an audience.
Yeah, hopefully we're entering into a period where they can be friends, the cinema and the streaming services, and not at each other's throats. So I agree with Cheryl, but I'd like as many people as possible to see the film.
I do think watching movies is hardwired into our DNA. Watching it in a theater, surrounded by strangers, sitting in the dark, responding, hearing people cry, hearing people laugh, it creates empathy for what you're seeing on the screen, empathy for the characters in the film, which hopefully you take out of the theater when you go. It's different at home, it just is. Having said that, that's our time. Listen, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
thank you all for being here. Enjoy the rest of your TIFF.
Thank you.